Hey art fans, glad you guys are here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, I'm talking about a pilot I did a long time ago that I thought for sure was going to be huge. I thought for sure, boy, this will be huge. The idea is great. It'll be awesome. And it was called Batman. No, it was called Dan Danger. And it was a pilot I did while I was working on the Fairly OddParents pilot and the number of short cartoons I did over on the Oh Yeah cartoon show. Fairly OddParents was the main thing I was working on. While I was doing that, I had a friend of mine, his name was Steve Marmel, really nice guy. We started working on this show together called The Dan Danger Show, and it was basically, really loved the idea too. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a show called The Crocodile Hunter, a guy named Steve Irwin. He wore like a safari outfit, and he'd talk like, he's an Australian guy, like, and he'd go out and he'd see all these amazing animals, and he'd talk about crocodiles and things like that. That was my Australian accent. I apologize to all my Australian friends right now. Anyway, Steve Irwin was fantastic, and he was great. He'd go out and do all these amazing, dangerous animal interactions, and be really kind of scary. But he was a really funny, affable guy. And we thought, man, we should make a cartoon about that guy. But how do we do it? We came up with an idea to do this show about a guy named Dan Danger. And it was all about this dude who could, wrestle alligators and fight lions and, climb the highest mountain and swim the deepest sea and all this sort of thing. But then when the cameras went off, he was actually a giant crybaby and everything was fake.
Get it away! Get it away! Get it away!
We start working on Dan Danger, and it was really a lot of fun. The way we designed the show to be was we'd start off with two kids at like a breakfast table, a couple bowls of cereal. We'd hear an announcer say, "Hey kids, do you like danger?" And one kid would go,
Yeah!
We cut to two other kids. Do you like excitement? One kid would go,
Yeah!
and then we cut to two other kids doing something, and the announcer would go, "Do you like broccoli?" And the kid would go,
Yeah! No!
"Then you'll love today's Dan Danger Show." We really did it a lot like the old Bullwinkle show, Bullwinkle and Rocky, which I absolutely loved growing up by the great, amazing Jay Ward. So it had kind of that flavor to it where the announcer would break the fourth wall, and the story revolved around Dan Danger, this guy who was terrified of everything until the cameras were on, then he would pretend he was brave. And his producer, this woman named Deb, and Deb was the put-upon producer who was always trying to get Dan to do things and he wouldn't do them. And then we had Deb's daughter, a little girl named Ruthie, who was Dan's greatest fan and sidekick. And so it was always Dan and little Ruthie going on adventures. And Ruthie would always talk Dan into really being truly brave. And I thought that was just a great, great show. So anyway, we started doing the pilot of Dan Danger, and Fred Seibert, the producer of the Oh Yeah series, really loved it. And so he gave us 3 more. We actually did 4 episodes of Dan Danger, and they're all 7 minutes long. Fred Seibert at the time thought 7 minutes was the magic number, because all the old Warner Brothers shorts were 7 minutes. And so even the original Fairly OddParents pilot was 7 minutes. When I told Fred Seibert that I wanted to make the Fairly OddParents episodes 11 minutes long after we got picked up, he wasn't very happy about that. We had to have a little talk, and I convinced him. But Dan Danger was 7 minutes long. We had 4 of those, and it was really, really great. So every episode, we'd see the beginning of the show, Dan Danger, and today's episode, Dan fights a poisonous snake. And then we'd see Dan facing off with the snake, and then the director would yell, "Cut!" And Dan would go,
Make it stop! Make it stop!
and he was very scared of everything. So Dan Danger was voiced by the amazing voice actor D. Bradley Baker, who's not only been on Fairly OddParents and all my other shows, Tough Puppy and stuff, he's been on SpongeBob and every other cartoon known to mankind. The guy is just amazing. He did Dan. A young lady named Aria Noel Curzon did Ruthie. She's fantastic. And Loretta Fox did the voice of Deb, and we just had a great time. We even had a guest starring role on one episode by the great Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond. He played a bully in an episode. When Dan has to go back to his old high school, the bully that used to pick on Dan was voiced by Brad Garrett. He's the brother Robert from Everybody Loves Raymond. And in fact, my wife Julianne even did a voice on the show as well. She played a lady cop who Dan falls in love with too, named Pepper. That was pretty funny. I thought for sure that show was going to get picked up. I was like, the characters were great, the character relations were great, the show looked great, I thought the designs were great, and Steve Marmel and I worked together great on the show. It was really a lot of fun. Everything about it to me was great. Anyway, so we get these episodes done. I'm over here making Fairly OddParents, we're making Dan Danger at the same time. I was very busy. It was a very tough time, but a fun time doing Fairly OddParents shorts and Dan Danger shorts at the same time. So anyway, They make Dan Danger, and they're going to focus test Dan Danger. And focus testing means they're going to put it in a room full of kids that they think it's appealing to, and they're going to see what the kids think. And sometimes that process can be amazing because the kids love it, and sometimes it can be a little less than amazing because some of the kids don't like it so much. I never got the full results of the focus test, but apparently they said the kids love the show, but they think Dan needs to be a hero all the way through. And that was what I got back from the executives. But then I got back from some other people who were there that weren't executives. They said the kids loved it, and I think the executives might have been just being a little too sensitive. Because sometimes people are more apt to listen to more of the negative stuff than the positive stuff. I wasn't in the focus test. Usually don't let the creators go to those types of things. You know, if you're not ready for it mentally or in your heart, you can be a little upset by the results if the kids aren't jumping up and down at your show, or if all the laughs aren't coming like they're supposed to. But anyway, the focus test didn't go as great as they wanted, and so Dan Danger did not go forward. It didn't become a series. It just kind of stayed as 4 really cool episodes. But you know what? I've moved on to other great things and had a great time. So with that in mind, I confess that even though I loved working on Dan Danger, I had to let it go because it just wasn't time to make it into a series. And I also confess that I wanted to do other things too, and I had to move on. I just couldn't stay there because there were other ideas brewing. But one cool thing is Dan Danger's still there, and it's a wonderful idea, and I look at it as something that people can look at and learn from. I certainly look at it and learn from. I learned a lot doing Dan Danger. I learned a lot about great character development, great writing. And a couple of my favorite things from Dan Danger was, number one, we had a catchphrase, "You can't spell danger without Dan." I thought that was really funny. And I love the theme song, Dan Danger. Dan Danger. You can hear it later, but that's all it said. It just says Dan Danger in the theme song. And I also love the fact that it wasn't the only show I worked on with the word Dan in the title. I think you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, all right, guys, so that's pretty much it. I confess that I loved working on Dan Danger, and I also confess that at the time I was sure it'd be picked up as a series. But my other confession is that I learned how to deal with loss, deal with, I won't call it a failure ever because it wasn't a failure. It just wasn't ready at the time to become a series for whatever reason. So I confess that I learned from that, and I hope you guys do too. So when something doesn't go the way you want it to the first time, it just might happen in another way down the road. So don't ever give up on your ideas. And I confess, I also learned this: always have more than one idea. If Dan Danger had been my only idea, I'd be done. There'd be no other cartoons. But I had other ideas. Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom, Tough Puppy, Bunsen as a Beast, many, many, many other ones. And so always have another idea ready to go, because there will be times where it might not go forward and you may have to move on to something else. So I want you guys to learn from that. Learn from me. Learn from my pain. But it wasn't really painful. It was actually more, I think it's more like going to the gym. Where you go to the gym, it's painful for a second, but the results are really great if you stick with it. So I'm glad I've stuck with it, and I want you guys to stick with it too. Okay? All right, Confessions of a Nicktoon Creator. There you go. What else you guys want to hear me talk about? Leave comments down in the comment section below. I want to hear them. All right, guys. Thanks so much, and don't forget, art gives you power. Use it wisely. Hey, Heart fans! Subscribe here to keep up with me, Danny, Timmy, Dudley, Bunsen, and the Noog Network, my new app full of cartoons, shows, and games. Download it here. Click over here to watch my most recent video, and here to start a playlist related to this video. Whoa! Check out that awesome fan art! To be featured here, use hashtag HeartFanArt and tag me. I'm on every social media platform known to man. Cartoon Butch out. Pencil drop.